More than 70 years after the U.S. fought and vanquished the Nazis in the Second World War, white supremacists and Nazis are marching openly without masks in America. A peaceful protester has been murdered, dozens have been injured, and 2 policemen have lost their lives in Charlottesville, Virginia during violent outbreaks sparked by a protest organized by racist white men flying the banner of the slavery-defending Confederacy and Adolf Hitler's Nazis. Worse, the President of the United States has failed to unequivocally condemn these evil men. In response to this emergency, President Trump first tweeted the blandest of sweeping non-comments: "We all must be united, condemn all that hate stands for. There is no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one." A little later, he addressed journalists and condemned hate on many sides while refusing to single out the modern-day Nazis parading openly in America. When asked if he still wanted the support of white nationalists, Donald Trump walked off without answering the question. He can't condemn them. These white nationalists are Trump's people. This is Trump's America. Donald Trump's abysmal inauguration speech: "The Americans who stand by Trump must also stand by the Americans who chanted blood and soil while parading in Charlottesville." The expression, in German, Blut und Boden, denotes a focus on racial and nationalistic identity that underpins Nazi ideology. Ever since Trump's victory, the worst elements in American society have been emboldened. "Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory" was how white nationalist and alt-right founder Richard Spencer proclaimed Trump's victory before lifting his arm in front of an audience that lifted theirs in response. This weekend, many more have joined the public celebration of racial and nationalistic ideologies that led to the deaths of millions in World War II. It is as if the lessons of history are being unlearned before our eyes. Al Gore on Donald Trump: "His wall is unlikely to get built." The resurgence of public racism is a consequence of Trump's victory. Some have already started to argue that these groups do not reflect Trump or the mainstream views of his supporters. Be in no doubt, the resurgence of public racism is the foreseeable, inevitable consequence of Trump's victory. Everyone who voted for him, everyone who supports him, is in some way responsible for what has happened. The former KKK leader David Duke told his people at Charlottesville that their time was at hand. "We are determined to take our country back," he boasted, saying, "We are going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back." That's what they feel. That's why they are crawling out from basements and rallying. They think the government is on their side because it is. Trump is now using the U.S. Justice Department to go after affirmative action programs that are designed to help black students. Despite American history and the social injustices of the present day, he's using the government to stand up for white people in America. A white nationalist plowed his sports car into a throng of protesters in Charlottesville. Michael Negro Zuma pressed by images. Of course, racists are empowered and enabled by the current political climate. The man in charge in the Oval Office has repeatedly refused to reject the endorsement of white nationalists like David Duke. Trump himself has openly courted the racist nationalist vote, like when he attacked the professionalism of a judge for being Mexican. He has a well-documented record of encouraging and defending violence against minorities by his supporters. His businesses have been repeatedly brought to court on allegations of racial discrimination, and his refusal to explicitly condemn white nationalists suggests that he might be one himself. With Trump in the White House, would-be Nazis around the country don't have to hide their prejudices, and for every one of them prepared to show their faces in public, there will be thousands who have sympathy with their cause. With Trump in the White House, Nazis don't have to hide. Another astonishing aspect of the scenes in Charlottesville was the lack of police involvement when men in army surplus uniforms who call themselves militias began parading their guns. If black men had dressed and acted as they had, if they had carried weapons and acted as these would-be Nazis had, many suspect that the Charlottesville police would have shot to kill. It would be reassuring if we were able to dismiss the events in Charlottesville as the death rattle of an old America, of the final cry of sad, cowardly, pathetic losers who cannot adjust to the reality of a world in which slavery is not celebrated, and the color of a person's skin or the place of their birth is not considered a significant factor, but unfortunately that's not the case. White nationalism is a disease that America seems unable to cure itself of. Since 1982, white people, almost all men, have committed 64% of the mass shootings in America. Hate crime in America is rising, and the swastika is becoming more prominent. These dreadful men have forgotten or ignored the lessons from history, but if we dismiss them just as girlfriendless, pitiful losers who are frightened of the modern world, then we risk ignoring the lessons from history. There are Nazis in America. They are out and proud. They are armed, and they are rallying. The U.S. president courts them, and refuses to select them for criticism. This is not a drill.